Star Wars Acolyte episode number 3 dropped tonight, so you know what that means. Another Juju Writes review. So let's get into my thoughts on episode 3. And just before we get into my thoughts, hold that thought. Right, this show and following this show has been one of the most painful experiences I have ever had as a Star Wars fan. Now, some criticisms of the show may be valid, but we don't know everything yet, guys. Come on. Saying fire in space is unrealistic. It's just complete bull crap when there's been fire in space the entire franchise. And I won't even get into the racial elements and the just blatant discrimination elements that people are having about this show. It quite frankly makes no sense, but stick around, guys. This show is very good, and it's only gonna get better as we dive deeper into the mystery of what happened with Osha and May and their entire world and how things went down. So before I get into my thoughts on episode 3, please like, comment, and subscribe. You know, it helps your boy out grow as a smaller YouTube channel. And let's get into my thoughts now. So episode 3 of Star Wars The Acolyte dropped tonight. And this one was a classic flashback episode. If you have been following The Acolyte so far, all we know is that May and Osha, twins. What else do we know? May, a killer. Osha, not a killer. Osha, former Jedi. May could be a Sith acolyte. We're not entirely sure, but we can assume some things so far based on what we've seen. And so this episode has established, well, at least from Osha's POV, Osha and May's backstory and their life on their home world. And so Osha and May come from a race of ancient spooky Force witches, and it is pretty cool to see this coven kind of being brought to life in Star Wars. We've seen witches in Star Wars before, noticeably within Ahsoka, and so it's definitely to see them look more human and more or less human, different alien races. The witches in Ahsoka freaked me out completely, but these witches had Jodie Turner-Smith, who you'll see in a little bit when I talk about her appearance, makes all the difference. Now, growing up as a twin, seeing a twin story told with this much accuracy fills my heart with so much joy. There was one scene in this episode where Jodie Turner-Smith's character, Mother Anastasia, makes Osha and May hold hands and tell each other they love each other, and they're like reluctant, but they actually do. That feels like it was ripped from the pages of my mind, of my memory. Quite frankly, I was like, oh, this reminds me of my childhood. This reminds me of growing up. And ultimately, isn't what all of this is about, to tell a human experience and a human story just set in a galaxy far, 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 far away. And that's what we love about Star Wars, and that's what this show is giving us. And so being a twin, it was amazing to see my experience as a twin being played on the screen. So we see Osha and May, and quite frankly, we see out the gate their differences. Osha is independent and wants her own life away from the coven, and May's down. She wants to be a witch. She wants the power. She's like, hey, I want to accept the responsibility to carry on what my Mother Anessa, has started. And that drives a divide between the twins and will kind of paint the path for where we are now, or where we be in current day within the storyline. And so we get to see more of that backstory. Back onto Jodie Turner-Smith's role as Mother Anastasia. She's like the head witch of this coven. She's like the most powerful witch. And man, Jodie Turner-Smith kills this role. That's why I feel 110% that if she was to be cast as Storm, I would have no qualms about it, because this lady acted her tail off in this. There's like one common quote that they say a lot is, what the thread has tied together, no one can separate, which is similar to a line my mom used to tell me and my brother. You know, we're Christian folks, and she would say, you know, what God put together, people can't separate. And so that kind of brought me back to, you know, my own childhood. But her performance as Mother Anastasia is heartfelt. It's it's a lot of she does a lot of acting in a sense of where she's stoic, she's graceful, she's very regal. She comes off very regal, which is why I say Storm again, which is why I say, if she's ever cast a Storm, I can see it 110%, and I would never be mad at that, because that is just what she gives in this role. And spoiler alert, this is kind of a spoiler alert, but I hate to see she died. Like, I wanted to see more of her and Jodie Turner. I want to see more of Jodie Turner Smith anyway. Ever since I saw her in Queen and Slim, I was like, hey, she's a rising star. But I was always thought her and Kiki Lane had similar strength, but Jodie Turner's a little older, and so they kind of have a similar feel. But Jodie Turner is just brilliant in this role. And so her role as Mother Anastasia, crucial to Osha and May's backstory. On a side note, not really side note, but a side note, the score of The Acolyte is quite frankly one of the better Star Wars scores. Star Wars is known for its music. The Duel of Fates, it's just known. It's just known for its music, and The Acolyte does not disappoint in the music department. If you hate the show, if you don't like the visuals, if you don't like the characters, at least check out the music, because, guys, it swells at the perfect moment. It tells a story within the music itself, and it does what you expect a Star Wars score to do. So, another point I have is to talk about these freaking Jedi. I love the Jedi. I think the Jedi were dope. I thought the Jedi were dope, but what I said in my first review of The Acolyte was that the Jedi act like space cops, and that's exactly what they're acting like. I thought they were like cool, like Knights of the Round Table, and they were all this dope stuff, but they're like policing, the galaxy, and it's feeling, very oppressive, especially when they just show up, on the witch's planet, and they're like, enforcing all these rules, talking about Republic rules. The planet is not even in the Republic. It's not even in the Republic. Why are you forcing yourselves and forcing these rules on these witches just because they're powerful women? Maybe that's why. But, I don't want to get too far into that role, because we all know how that goes, and fires off and makes a culture war in a sense. And so it just gives this show is making the Jedi feel like space cops, and I hate that for the Jedi. Because they are genuinely pretty cool. But it was like the witches were against the Jedi because they felt the Jedi, they wanted to have the monopoly on power, and power being the Force. And so it was a very interesting dialogue that Jodie Turner Smith's character, Mother Anastasia, was telling Osha when Osha decided she wanted to be a Jedi. And she was telling her, it's not about you wanting to be a Jedi, it's about power and who is able to use it and utilize it. Because the Jedi, even though they try to be the peacekeepers of the universe, they are ultimately policing it in a sense, and who can use the Force and how they can use it. And when it's a gift that everyone, or at least Force sensitive people, have, to be that, anal about it, and to be, almost oppressive in a sense, like, yeah, we're going to take your kids, like, we have to test them to see if they're Jedi, and if they pass, then they're going to be Jedi. Like, they have no choice but to be Jedi. We're going to take them away, and that's just going to be their life. And so, this show so far has talked about some very interesting concepts. It's not about right or wrong, good or bad. And even in this show, like in Star Wars in general, you think Sith bad, Jedi good, but it's not that simple, and it's never been. And I love that we're getting into that, and we're getting into more of the covert themes of Star Wars than the overt ones, being, the force of good and the force of evil and balance, and all of that waddy wah googly mook that you see all the time. It's elevating itself in a sense to include more themes that you have to read deeper into. And if you judge the show, and this is what I was talking about, why people don't like the show, But if you judge the show based off the appearance of the characters, the unrealisticness of the fire in the space, you're gonna miss the entire point of the story they're trying to tell. And it is that the Jedi are not perfect. These Sith are not perfect. Quite frankly, everybody has good and bad in their closets. And that's what this show is trying to say. And so I love how it blurs the lines of who we're supposed to root for. Because in instinct, we want to be for the Jedi, for the people, right? But then we have these witches. I'm like, oh, I'm for the witches. But then I might be at the end saying, oh, I'm for the Sith. You know, they're liberating people. But, you know, the Sith, you know, they're killing people. You know, murder is bad, y'all. You can't just be killing people. And that's what this show is giving. This episode was all about setup, so we'll see what the next episode is going to give us. Are we going to flash back to current day? Are we going to stay and learn more about what May's journey has been? Because we know what Osha's has been. She was trained by the Jedi and raised by the Jedi. The mystery is around May and her journey and what she's seen, what she hasn't seen. And so, you know, I think it served the show best to go flashback in the present time, just to keep the energy moving and flowing, and just have several flashbacks of May's story and the pieces that they put together from here on out. But listen, guys, check out this show. I know it's like, you know, you may have your tiffs about it, but give it an honest chance. See the story for what it is, and you'll find some awesome stuff and some awesome gems in it that you never thought you could within a Star Wars project. So listen, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. That helps your boy out a lot. And this has been another Juju Writes Review. Keep it locked.